I want to talk about this movie. It's called Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Well, let's look. This is the cast of the movie. You're like, okay, this is the entire, well, as far as I can see, this is the cast. Oh man, is this movie boring. These characters all, look at, you got Carrie Elways, you got Anthony Hopkins, you got Jenna Malone, Charlie Hemme. I don't know who Sophia. Oh, I do know who she is. Okay, I have seen her in her. She was in Tom Cruise's Mummy. That's where I saw her. Yeah, she was also in Kingsman. She was the chick with the prosthetic legs. And then you have Djimon Hounsou, a guy actually born in Africa. Okay, he would have been perfect to play, Black Panther. They went with who they went with. But this movie is not just written by Zack Snyder. He not only wrote it, he directed it. He came up with the story, and he's the cinematographer. He doesn't know, and this is typical Snyder. This movie is one of the most boring. It wants to be Star Wars, but it's boring. It has the color palette of his first movie that he wrote and directed, which was Sucker Punch. It has that same remove all the color, extract all the color from this movie, and make it look gray as shit. And this movie is too long. It's literally, I think it's like 2 hours, 124 minutes. It's too fucking long. It's so goddamn boring. The beginning of it is boring. The main villain is, when I look at the cast, this is the guy who played, yeah. He's the main villain of this movie. And I know he filmed this in New Zealand, and it sounded like he hired a bunch of New Zealand actors to be in this because, dear God, this thing wants to be Star Wars in the worst way. But it also has a tendency to made me think of, in one scene, and this has to do with one of the characters that they go to. It also made me think of his Justice League, where all the characters are coming. The first movie is all about getting the characters together, the Resistance. I'm not going to call them the Rebels, but the Resistance to take on the Space Nazis. Oh man, were they Space Nazis. Oh God, this movie is so awful. It is dull as shit. I was like, I'm not a Zack Snyder fanboy. I cannot stand his 300 is probably the best movie he did, and it's really hard to screw up that. But Zack Snyder has this need to do this bullet time shit, which is this slow down motion, which is, what they did in Blade when Frost is shooting and they slow it down. That's where the first ever, where you see the bullet shot at a character and they slow it down and move out of the way. Wasn't in Matrix, it was in Blade. But here, he has this need to do this slow-mo for every fucking almost action scene. Then there's one scene where the villain has this cane. And he hits this, and he's basically having this long dialogue with this character. It looks kind of like he's an animal that talks. But when he goes to swing this thing to hit it, they slow it the fuck down. Almost seemed like 5 minutes, we got Zack Snyder's hard on for the slow-mo. He did this a lot in Sucker Punch. He does this in every movie. He has this need to slow. He did in 300. He didn't do it as bad as it's gotten lately. I watched another movie where they had this he has this tendency to overuse slow-mo. To slow down, or what they call bullet time. To slow it down so you can extend the scene. I could not tell you what the fuck this movie is about. Nobody can tell you because it literally is boring. The characters are bland. They have no personalities. I couldn't tell you where don't know who Ray Fisher is supposed to be in the movie. I think he was supposed to be this tall black guy, but I couldn't tell you. There's a guy that looks like he has dreadlocks in the movie, and he has a sister and everything. I think that may be Ray Fisher. And just like in Justice League, he has no personality. Djimon Hounsou, I like. He's a good actor, but here, he's wasted. You know, like I said, when I see him in this movie, I thought immediately he should have played Black Panther. Because he's from Africa. Yes, he was born in Africa. But this movie is boring. It's setting up. It's supposed to be a soap opera. It's trying to be Star Wars, but it's the Disney Star Wars, not the George Lucas Star Wars. Yeah, the whole thing, the MacGuffin, we've got to find. Then there's this scene where she's the main character. I think her character name, I'm going to go to the cast because honestly down here I could tell you two fucks about this movie. Sophia, she plays Cora, and she's having this whole where she's talking about her past. And we find out that why she's not a strong whamming character just to be a strong whamming. She has a backstory. She was a little girl. She had this gun. She was on this planet that had been invaded by whoever these people are, these space Nazis. And basically this one guy found her as a child, took her in, raised her, made her a soldier. Yeah, we get this, and then there's a scene where she's basically protecting the king and queen's daughter, and she apparently is even, Jesus healed the leopards and resurrected from the dead. Here this little girl, this is giving nothing away because this scene has served no other purpose but to, I don't know if it's gonna come back later in the movie, but there's literally this scene with the girl and she's explaining her past, and this dog, and I think it's supposed to be the Italian the Italian dog, those muscle dogs, the big war, you bring back this dead bird, and the little girl picks this bird up, holds it, and then magically has the ability to bring it back from the dead. I kid you fucking not. Does this have anything to do with the plot? Except for to explain that she was taken from her home world and raised and became one of this elite warrior? No. Didn't need to be in it. Does not have shit to do with the rest of the movie. I was watching Adam of Your Movie Sucks. He was doing a live viewing where you see him react to this movie, and people are in the super chats responding that God, this is a boring movie. It really is. The color palette is shit. It's like Zack Snyder said, what does color look like? Gray. And it's got this out of focus issue. Zack Snyder, and he did this in his previous movie, which was Army of the Dead, which is also a Netflix movie. I'll talk about that god-awful movie, but this had that tendency to, as a cinematographer, he doesn't know how to frame a film, how to put things in focus. When you're focusing, if you want something, the closer the camera, you put everything in the background out of focus. You want to focus on the thing closest. If you want to people to see what's in the foreground, is it? I forget what it's called when it's in the background. You want that, you blur out everything. You put everything, out of focus so you can focus on the scene. He does this in seems lately in every movie he did this in Man of Steel, this tendency to put everything out of focus, no color. Oh my God. It was like lots of scenes where you couldn't tell what the fuck was going on. Everything was dark. You couldn't see what was going on. He did this, like I said, I'll talk about Army of the Dead. But this whole need to make everything dark as shit and He doesn't understand that a cinematographer, unlike a director of photography, is responsible for not just putting the movie, taking and having the film filmed, having the movie filmed, but also you're responsible for lighting the scene because, God, it was dark. It was dark, burned, out of focus. It was space Nazis who had no personalities. Like, it takes way too long to get to the end of this movie, and by the end, it's like, it's boring as shit. Yeah, now, the plot is derivative, the story is derivative, the characters have no personalities. I wish I wasn't making that shit up, but that is absolutely the fact of this shit. These are the different types of, looks and everything. You have literally a chick who has what, they're not really lifesavers, they're blades, but she can heat them up. So they light up. They turn red. So it's deceptively supposed to make you think of the lifesavers. But yet you can tell they're two blades. They're supposed to be swords. And she can light them up, and she apparently has a robotic arm or something. I think at one point we see that. And she's this Asian chick, and I tell you, I didn't give a shit about this movie. The bad guy is just, he talks, but he talks so boring. He has no personality. Okay, when you look at, and you realize by the end of this movie, he's supposed to be Vader in the movie. I'll get to that. Yeah, he literally is supposed to be Vader. And we eventually meet the guy who's supposed to be Palpatine of this. And we've seen him because he was the guy that found Sora. I think her name's, God, I keep forgetting her name, Korra. And he brings her in. And yeah, this is the cast. And it's one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. Carrie, he plays the king. We never see who it is that kills the king. I guess the king and queen. It just was boring. None of these characters had any personality. This is Zack Snyder. And this goes back, like I said, this is how Cameron is. They all learned from Cameron how to write terrible and how to direct shitty and how... all the worst shit about this movie is it's long, it's boring, it sets up a sequel that's coming in. By the way, apparently, right here it says an R-rated, because he went to Disney, to Kathleen Kennedy, and said, I have this R-rated Star Wars script for you. She turned it down. I can see why she turned it down. Of all the things Kathleen Kennedy has been responsible for, one of the greatest things she could have done was turning down this trash. This is actually worse than, boring. At least you could say this about the shitty prequels. Not the prequels, sorry, I didn't mean the prequels. I meant the Disney Star Wars it wasn't boring. You can never say that about the shitty Disney Star Wars. They were movies, the three. Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. One thing you can't say about them was they were fucking boring. They were also filmed, the competence in film, in a cinematographer or director of photography is in the way they're filmed. They're filmed by somebody who knows what they're doing. Zack Snyder doesn't know what he's fucking doing. And there's a big difference. Also, he really knows how to make things boring. I know his super fans are going to go, again, you don't understand Zack Snyder. I understand that, being a true fan of George Lucas, how when people shit on the prequels, I go, fuck you, you don't know George Lucas. I can understand that sense of, to his fans, why you love Zack Snyder. You love his style of filmmaking. I'm not hating on you for that. I get it. I don't like Zack Snyder shit. I think it's boring. He doesn't know what he's doing. But just like with Disney Star Wars, you like that shit. Good for you. I'm not one of these people that's going to tell you your shit for liking Zack Snyder. I'm not going to call you toxic because you want to defend Zack Snyder. I get it. I understand that. I defend George Lucas. And a lot of people hate him. Look what happened. He sold his company to Disney. And they celebrate that shit. But Zack Snyder, this is just my thing. I'm not a big fan of his. I thought 300 was fine, but after that, he doesn't know what he's doing. When I didn't like any of his movies. I thought his Dawn of the Dead, like George Romero, was dog shit. This movie, some of the cast, if it had a better writer and had a competent cinematographer, Zack Snyder didn't sat down with an actual, true, creative writer, let them write this, and had a cinematographer that knew what they were doing, and a better editor. That's another problem, that this movie is way too fucking long. And he cut it down. This whole need to make long movies, I can't stand that shit. Make a movie, an hour and a half is fine. This is the problem with him and Nolan and these directors that constantly think, I need a longer film. I need a 3-hour cut. No, you don't. An hour and a half would have been perfectly fine. This is a 2-hour of first part of a 4-hour. This is not the R rating. That's coming later. But they said it. 2004, that 24 this year. But the second part hasn't come out yet. And it's come out April the 19th, which is also a 2-hour. So put these two together, part 1 and 2. You're talking about 4 hours. It's the same length as his Justice League. And that thing was a boring piece of shit. This thing, wow. Now, we also had Anthony Hopkins literally voicing a robot. The problem is, it's not exciting. If he's supposed to make you think of our C-3PO, it doesn't. I think of Anthony Hopkins sitting in a booth, reading a bunch of dialogue, having his voice recording, going, that was absolutely boring. See, when Anthony Daniels does R2D, does C-3PO, you can tell he puts himself into the role. He really gets into playing C-3PO. Physically, he does. You don't get that with Anthony Hopkins. You get him sitting in a booth, reading his line, like he really... It's just reading just for the sake of reading. And that's the problem. And this movie makes no sense. It's too long, it's boring. Oh, and it's not a surprise when I'm about to get into the heart of this movie. Because when a certain character turns out of the group of resistance who are going to go to take on the mother ship, or whatever it's called, the Space Nazis' big Imperial ship. So, wow, that really was him? That was him? I could not tell that was Ray Stevens. They hit him, I wasn't sure that was Ray Fisher, because, well, it had the same acting ability. I didn't know that was him, under the dreadlocks and the makeup and everything. I was like, oh, God, she's gorgeous, but they made her look ugly in this movie. She looks atrocious. I was like, she looks ugly, and this woman's gorgeous in real life. They just made her look. There's something about making a woman who's attractive look like shit, and Zack Snyder's really good at that. He's really good at making women look unattractive. Because she does not look good in this movie. Cora, for her character, is just bland. She talks, it's like, oh, get away from me. It's just not a good movie. And, well, let's get into, I'm gonna spoil the shit out of this. This pretty much, Wikipedia, and I just watched it, so I'm gonna tell you, the Wikipedia here does in fact, is pretty, if you didn't want to watch it, you just want to read what this fucking thing is about, this pretty much tells you, gives you a good hint of how bad this thing is. There's basically, at one point in the movie, this guy, Charlie Hunnam, I don't know, he's good looking, I guess women think he's good looking, but he can't act worth shit, plays Kai. Okay, when we meet him, she's trouting out to collect people to go and fight the space Nazis. And she meets this guy, and he gives away who he is. He's in it for the money. Oh, you're supposed to think he's Han Solo. No. No, see, she's supposed to be Luke Skywalker. If we're going by Star Wars, this girl right here is supposed to be Luke Skywalker. But it turns out he's actually Luke Skywalker because the farm boy is him. She's not really much of a farmer. He is. But she's the part of Luke that wants to be a Jedi. You know, she wants to be the adventurous one. Leave the farm and become a hero. He kind of reluctantly goes along with it. Not because he's really like wanting to. It's kind of like, I'm going to help you get to the person you need it, you know, da-da-da. And then we meet this guy on another planet. And God, can he not act. But his dialogue is shit. And he's boring. And it gives away that he is going, you could tell right away, he's going to betray them and you can see the betrayal coming. And it's after they've collected Djimon Hounsou here, General Titus, really, General Titus. And, yeah. And this guy is, Baracus. If I remember right, Baracus. He's the man that found Cora on her home world and took her in and raised her and made her, calls her his daughter. Okay. This guy right here is, like I said, I'll get to why he's Vader in this movie. It makes sense when you see it. Don't bother, it's terrible. And he's, at the end of this movie, trust me, he is supposed to be Palpatine, but with no charisma. Yeah. Because they get to the point where they've collected Djimon Hounsou here. Really good actor, by the way. I wish he had more to do. Then we get to Rayce Fisher here. We collect him in some of some of those who want to work with him. And they're heading off to another place. This is where I guess you could say towards the end of the movie where they're going to apparently get supplies or whatever to go and fight the space Nazis, and they get betrayed. It turns out he betrayed them. Yes, this guy right here, as you watch it, you will realize he's the traitor. Oh, right off the bat, he gives it away. I'm here to collect money. You can tell he's not going to be the Han Solo. Nope. Not even close to being the hero of the story or the Han Solo. He's kind of, yes, he has a shit, but he's kind of shit at being Han Solo. Oh no. You have no Han Solo in this movie. You do have, it turns out, Luke Skywalker. That's this guy, the farmer, gunner. Because after they've all been betrayed, and this space Nazi, and he is he's the Vader space Nazi. Yes, he's the Admiral space Nazi. He's not Tarkin in the movie. No. He doesn't have the personality of Peter Cushing. Or the personality of anything but shit. Because as a villain, he sucks. And basically, he is given this tool. They're captured, she's captured, he's captured, she's captured, he's captured, and they're all going to be killed. And basically, he's ordered by him, handed a thing to kill her. Yeah. This is the spoiler part of this dog shit. And instead of, he decides, surprisingly, by the way, he goes, I'm actually shocked to see you here, farmer. Yeah, because he's a farmer. But, getting back to this, he puts this thing in back of where if it goes through, it'll basically kill her. Go through her neck, severing her spine, cutting off, the ability for her brain to, her rest of her body, and she'll die. Instead, he pulls the gun, surprising him, kills him. And then frees her. Then she proceeds to free, I think, her, and then him, and she gets her swords back. And basically, they fight off the space Nazis, and then Nazi here fights her. Oh yes, the star that Luke Skywalker faces the Vader, but they're not related. I'll get to. And they fight, and basically, she's a strong character not because she's a strong wham-in. Nope, it's because she was trained to be a space Nazi by Daddy Space Nazi, her adopted space Nazi father. Yes, get to him in a minute. We see him, he raised her as a space Nazi. Yes, and then she ran away. Then when captured, he reveals her real name. He does. I think, yeah, this is how Bourne is. Yeah, he reveals her real name to all of them, who she once was. And then after they basically beat the space Nazis, and it looks like she kills him, which, by the way, she does. She breaks his arm and everything, and basically stabs him with the cane, killing him. She's asked by, I forget who asked her. Oh yeah, he asked her if it's true that's her name. She goes, no, he was a liar, basically. They go back to farm country, planet, where we see the Jimmy, yeah, that's what they call the robot, and he's got deer horns on his head. Don't ask me why. Then we get a scene where they take the dead Vader. They find him on the planet that he was left on, bring him back. Turns out he's a robot. Yes, he's a goddamn android, covered in heat and skin. So they resurrect him. Then we get the scene where we meet Palpatine. This guy. Oh, it turns out Regent here, he might be the most boring Palpatine of all because you don't give a shit. You're not surprised because he was the one that raised her that he was going to turn out because he's dead. He's been killed off. His wife's been killed off. We don't know what happened. The little girl plays their daughter because she's never, ever seen again. Yeah, she heals a dead, brings a dead bird. Yeah, that girl. You'll see her if you watch this shit. It's boring. Yeah. And he gets resurrected and we meet the Palpatine, which I knew right away was Batista, because they brought him in, this guy in, they talked about him, built him up, and then we realize he's the guy sitting there hitting the ice, because when this fuck is resurrected, he suddenly goes into, I guess in his mind or whatever, and he has a conversation where he says, bring back my daughter, because he wants to crucify her publicly because she betrayed them, which is what you call an execution. He said, if you don't, I will execute you in front of everybody. So we end with him being, a bunch of robots are resurrecting Vader here. A bad, horrible version of Vader. And I think this guy right here, Rupert Fiend, he might be, I'm not sure. I think he's the guy that gets on this bird that made me think of pod racing, because they place a bet. There's a scene with this bird that's captured. This guy, he's captured. He's got a chain. He basically owes a debt, and they place a bet that he can basically break this bird to make it so they can ride it. And if he succeeds, he gets his freedom. That was what made me think of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the scene where Qui-Gon Jinn places a bet with, I forget what his name is, that if Anakin wins, he gets both Anakin and his mother's freedom. He wins, if you've seen it, Anakin wins, but then the guy basically goes back on his word and only lets him take Anakin or his mother, and then his mother decides to let her son go. But yeah, that's what made me think of that whole thing. Like I said, movie's terribly boring. It's only part one of a two-part piece. Yeah, and then later you'll get the really long fucking 10-hour of this horse shit later on this year. Yay. And it's like shit on top of shit. And I'm not the only one thinking this is dog shit. It is the most, I was like, wow, this movie, and I'll talk about his other movie, and talk about Zack Snyder in general, There's several movies where, like I said, Sucker Punch started this. The way he films his movies, they're shit. So yeah, I just want to really go into this, and just you don't have to see it. It's boring. Other people have talked about it. I gave you the ending of this dog shit because I'm like, don't waste your time. I'm not a Zack Snyder fan, but I understand his fans love his shit. Hey, I love George Lucas' stuff, even when he makes bad decisions. I still think he's a great director and a great writer. I've seen all of his movies, I've seen all the movies he wrote. He wrote Howard the Duck. He didn't direct it, wrote it. He wrote the 3 original trilogy, 2 of them Empire, which should have been Revenge of the Empire, and Return of the Jedi with Lawrence Kasdan. Yes, his now ex-wife, at the time that he was married to, she edited all 3 of the movies. She's uncredited with editing Empire and Return of the Jedi, but she did edit all 3 of the movies. And I can get into but yeah, I just want to do this real quick. This is Gilgamesh. I will talk to you later. Bye.